What is up, everybody? Welcome back here to the channel. We're talking Dynasty Stashes today. What we're going to be looking at is some deep Dynasty Stashes. Guys that are out there on my waiver wire, in my leagues, in my Dynasty leagues that, are deep benches, rookies that you could be adding to your roster and stashing them on the taxi squad, or maybe your rosters have opened, right? So we're looking at some deep guys out there, some guys that maybe you're not talking about, right? Everybody knows the Malik Washingtons and those type of guys. But we're just going to go deeper here. And some guys that out there could have, making some noise out there. You hear a little bit of buzz out there in camps. And we're going to start with Jordan Whittington out here in LA. And when we're thinking of him as a receiver at Texas, the one thing that I always stood out about Jordan Whittington and what he was just a solid role guy, right? Just that natural kind of, he was kind of a running back / wide receiver type role. Really physical blocker. Like when he gets out there, you love that about him. Now, that's not fantasy relevant, but it is get on the field relevant. And he does the little things. Like when you think of Jordan Whittington, you always thought of those little things. Very consistent, right? Last 2 years, over 500 yards receiving both years, over 40 catches both years. Just consistent. And he's going to be a special teams guy. So Jordan is always going to be that. I'm a big part of Jordan Whittington's upside is his special teams ability. And with the new special teams rules, could see on the field, right? We're talking deep stashes here. So those are the type of level, like things that you like about him, right? And really good hands. I love his hands, his ability to kind of just catch possession type guy. He'll never be that vertical game guy, right? He's not going to be that. He's older prospect, obviously. He played 5 years. But slot guy, possession guy, those type of things. And then when you're looking at where he landed, this is a great offense to land in, right? They have Puka, they have Cooper, and Demarcus Robinson has been good too. But I do think Jordan can kind of fit as that Ben Skronik type kind of backup. And Ben's contract's coming up after this year, contract year. Maybe Jordan takes that, right? Maybe they don't want to kind of offer him any more money, Ben, and then they just move over to Jordan and they say, hey, you know what? You're going to be kind of that role player guy. And he's a fun guy to kind of just stash out there. He's absolutely free right now. Zero bid out there. And I think with his upside and his kind of just gamer mentality, do it all type of prospect, these are the type of guys that you're looking at trying to stash out there. Next guy that's getting a little bit of buzz out of Titans camp. And I get weary about that, but I do love that they have that new system coming in there. And I like that idea of Brian Callahan kind of being there now. So, Jaquan Jackson, two-lane wide receiver, very consistent as well as a couple years that he played. The last 2 years, 439 yards last year, 554 yards, 26 catches, 33 catches the last couple years. Very good, right? When we're thinking of solid prospect. Now, good when we compare him to stashes here. But I think the one thing about Jackson that kind of stands out, unlike Whittington earlier, explosive after the catch, has that ability, right? The vertical kind of area there. And his biggest thing, and you're going to kind of hear this, like that system of this, experience as a returner. He brings that ability to offense, right? I love that about him. And in Brian Callahan's offense, they utilize kind of those players like him. I think their profile is like, hey, special teams profile. And, he's just quick. He's going to be that guy. Really good slot receiver role too, if there's ability, right? And I think there's a role there. I think the biggest thing with Jaquan is that there's a role possible there. Treylon Burks just came out. They talked about him being a special teams guy. And this is, a new staff. They might not like Treylon Burks. Kyle Phillips hasn't been able to stay healthy. Well, who else is there? It's Jaquan. Jaquan Jackson has that inside ability by a coaching staff that, drafted him in the 6th round. So I think he could maybe find the gadget type role in this offense, has that consistent there. That's really the big thing. It's not going to be a feature role, but has that ability, right? I think he can play in the slot. And based on the depth chart, you're looking at an ability to kind of fit his way in there. Like the two guys ahead of him are no sure things. There's no sure roles sit there. So Jaquan to me is a fun ad. And if you have him out there, I mean, he's really worth a 4th out there in trade value out there at Fantasy Calc. But when you're looking at Jaquan and you're looking at kind of the upside there in an offense that I know Will Levis is running it, but I love Brian Callahan's system. I kind of like Jaquan Jackson. I think that if he's out there in your waiver wire, you need to go add him right now. Now, when you look at the next guy we're going to talk about, another wide receiver, Ryan Flournoy from, Southeast Missouri State, a small school product, older product, played 6 years of college football, 6'1", 202, playing for the Cowboys. Now, I know I'm a Cowboy fan, so you guys watching, you guys are free to roll your eyes. But I like Ryan here in the system because, his relative athletic score was 9.89. And essentially 40-yard dash is a 4.4. Vertical jump, almost 40 inches. Broad jump, 11. He did that pretty well. He lasted, he got picked in round 6. But again, when you're thinking of talent, really, really elite level athleticism, like I talked about, really good footwork and actually really good route running. Like he actually has some of the best route running of those day 3 guys that we're mentioning. And in very versatile alignment, he can go either way. He could be a Z, a slot, X. He could really do those things. And there is an opening on these depth charts for the Dallas Cowboys for a wide receiver. I, as a fan of the team, I know that there's an opening, right? Yeah, Jalen Tolbert out there who is not, he's probably the X right now in that offense, but he has not stepped up to the plate. He has not been one of those guys that, has really come out since they drafted him. I think there's going to be an open competition at that X. And I think that's where Ryan steps in. It's him and Jalen Tolbert there. Brandon Cooks at Z, and then you have CeeDee Lamb, obviously, is going to be there. I think Jake Ferguson's going to be good. He's a fun buy. But, Ryan Florida could come in there if he has a good camp, if he has a good, heading into the preseason, where I think there's a possibility that he gets in that field in those 3 wide receiver sets. And in this offense, which is going to throw the ball a ton. I don't know if you guys know, the running back room in Dallas Cowboys is non-existent, right? We got Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, Zeke, all those guys. I think that you're going to see a ton of volume out of the passing game. Ryan's going to benefit from that if he can get on the field. He is, of the guys of this list, he has a chance to kind of increase his value the most because I think the system fits the player. He fits well in that athletic type of wide receiver that can create separation because he has that route running. He's tied to Dak for this year. I think this offense does fit him. And a lot of that pressure, defensive pressure, if he's on the field, is going to go to CeeDee Lamb. And I think a little bit with Jake Ferguson out there, who's underrated, where Florida could kind of just earn targets. And we've seen Dak. He will consistently go to different guys out there. And we've seen him definitely target different players and have faith in rookies. Man, Flournoy could be the guy that we're talking about as being kind of that sleeper, not that huge impact sleeper, but at least the guy that increases in value, right? When you talk about Dynasty Stashes, we're not always talking about, the guy who's going to, score fantasy points for your team and you can plug in and plug week in, week out. Sometimes we're just talking about a guy that gets increased in value and you can move him, right? That's really the whole nature of the beast of this game. Now, I don't want to just talk about wide receivers the whole time. Let's talk about a running back who I think, has a shot. When we're looking at just potential in an offense that you really like, Jawar Jordan out here, from Louisville, running back, smaller guy, sub 200. But speed translates, and he's in Bobby Slolik's offense. Speed, right? When we're thinking of these offenses that come from these Shanahan tree, you want the speed. We've seen that, and it works. And has the vision. Like, I think speed and vision to me really stand out for him. And elusive in the second level of defenses. He's very elusive there. I don't really think his 40-yard dash really equates to how elusive and how fast he is on the field. I think it fits him. And I think it translates really well there. He had 1,000 yards rushing last year for Louisville. And when you turn on the tape, there was times where you thought he was the best running back. Isaac Rondo was on that team. Easily the best running back there. I think that he has fantastic vision, which sets him apart, operates in space well. And I think he does have mismatch linebackers and safeties. I think that he's physical enough to get by safeties. And I think he's quick enough and loose enough if he gets to that second level to really be that guy. Third down, change of pace type guy as well. Had 21 catches last year for 246 yards. And when you're looking at the roster, now you can look and see and like, hey, man, that running back room. But it's Joe Mixon, who I like Joe Mixon. But we did see, Chase Brown last year. He looked good in that offense, and we saw him take some series away from them. Dameon Pierce is Dameon Pierce. I don't know. Like, I'm not a big believer in Dameon Pierce. He'll get some volume there, but maybe Jordan comes in. He's that scat back. He's that speed guy. He's that vision guy that just fits in this offense. And we like what Texans have done in the offensive line. He's an older prospect, right? But really what you're thinking about with Jordan is that, running backs are just, what can they do for me the next time they get on that field? And if he gets on that field, I do think in this offense especially with the additions of Stephon Diggs, that wide receiver room. I do think Jordan has a lot of one-on-one opportunities if he can get in space, and he's going to make guys miss. He's going to be that big play guy. So he's a guy to kind of watch. He's free. All these guys are free out there, but Jordan definitely caught my eye just going through all of the lists, going through all the prospects of a running back who could take that next step, these deeper guys who have kind of an opportunity ahead of him. Now, last guy I want to talk about is our tight end room. We're going to be talking about tight ends right now. Tanner McLachlan from, Arizona. I watched his tape. I kind of dived into him when I was doing my pre-scouting stuff at my last company, kind of diving into the rookie guide. And really, the interesting thing with Tanner is, he has the yak ability, right? When you watched him, he had 45 catches last year, 528 yards. And the big thing that just came out to me as I was kind of talking about it was reliable hands. Dude just catches everything that's thrown his way. He had 0 drops, according to PFF, in 2023, and just a fluid athlete. So when you're thinking of deep guys at the tight end position that you like to stash, those check the box, right? Hands, athlete, generates yards after the catch. Now, the one knock on Tanner is he's definitely not he's not a blocking tight end per se, right? He's not that inline guy that can line up against defensive ends and defensive, even tackles at times and drive them back. And I think with the Bengals, I don't know if they need that, right? So when you're thinking of like their tight end room, I do think that he's going to compete with Eric All, another guy that I like. I do like Eric All, but Eric All is more expensive than Tanner McLachlan. That's why we're talking about Tanner in this one. But I do think when you're just thinking of like a prospect as like a receiver, it's Tanner. I think he has that ability. And I think that when you're looking at him, they prioritize the position, but he's the better pass catcher of this group, right? Mike Gesicki is there, Eric All, Tanner McLachlan, even like Cam Grandy is also there. But man, he could get out there. And I do think that he can get out there and get some number 2 snaps behind him. And if he shows that he can get some number 2 snaps in this offense, obviously the target's going to be limited, right? Jermaine, Burton, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, those guys are there. Even to a necessary extent, Chase Brown's going to get targets in that room. But Tanner is a fun stash at that tight end in an offense that you want to stash him in, and an offense that might lose T. Higgins. Maybe the volume and the passing volume is going to go someplace else. And maybe they like Tanner enough to where they're looking at Mike Gesicki and even Eric All and saying, hey, you're going to be our tight end 1 moving forward. We like you that much. And that's the tight ends that you're looking for, especially in deeper leagues, that you're willing to take a shot on. And I think the receiving ability is just what stands out for Tanner there. So those are our guys. Those are the guys that kind of go through in our 5 deep stashes here at the Devy Royale. Kind of go grab $0 bids, kind of just put them on there. Really no risk at all grabbing some of these guys. You probably have a lot of roster fodder that you can kind of cut, get off your bench, those roster cloggers that are sitting there that are some older prospects to kind of put you up there. So let us know in the comments what you think about that. Hit the DMs if you want to find me on Twitter at DuBois_22, answering any questions there, or go check out our Patreon that we have. We appreciate all the support we've been getting over there. We've had a lot of people join the last month, and we love that you guys are loving it. So appreciate you guys. I will check you guys in the next one.